Hi, welcome to Virtual CB1A. This is Miss Rena, and for this video discussion, we will focus on section 4.4, proving triangles are congruent. We have two postulates, ASA congruence postulate and AAS congruence postulate. So let's focus first on the ASA congruence postulate. So how are we going to use this postulate in proving that two triangles are congruent? So it states that if two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the included side of the second triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. Let's take a look at triangle ABC and triangle DEF. In here, we can see from the markings that angle D is congruent to angle D. That is one angle. Next, we have the side AC congruent to side DF. That is one side. And we have another angle, angle C, congruent to angle F on the second triangle. So that is another angle. Take notice that side AC is between the two given angles, angle A and angle C, and side DF is between the two angles, angle D and angle F. So please, wag niyong pagbabalik-baliktarin yung mga corresponding angles and sides natin. It should always be between the congruent angles. Now, for angle-angle side, congruence theorem. So, if two angles and a non-included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles of the corresponding non-included side of a second triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So, how can we tell if they are non-included? So, tingnan natin yung dalawang given triangles natin dito. Triangle ABC and triangle DEF. For the first angle, we have angle A, which is congruent to angle D. Next, we have angle C, which is congruent to angle F. And then for the side, we have BC congruent to EF. So take notice that the included side is side AC for the first triangle, and the included side for the triangle DEF is side DF. So, if you are going to make use of BC and EF, we are going to call them non-included sides since they are not between our angles. Pwede mo rin naman gamitin si AB is congruent to DE. AB and DE are also non-included sides. But you have to take note that since BC is a side of one of your angles, C, so si B, C ay side ni angle C, di ba? And C is congruent to F. So, dapat ang gagamitin mong non-included side ay yung side din na gumagamit, side din na ginagamit nung congruent na angle kay C. So, ang side ni angle F na non-included is EF. So, dapat, if this made use of BC, this will make use of EF. Kung ang ginamit naman niya ay side ng angle A, non-included side from angle A, pwede natin gamitin si AB and DE. Okay? So, just take note of the idea of correspondence. So, ito ay proof mismo nung theorem natin. So, hindi ko na siya, or proof mismo nung postulate natin. Ay, theorem pala tong isa. Angle-angle side congruence theorem. So, please take note of that kasi ako talagang malilimutin ako. So, angle side angle, this is a congruence postulate. But, angle-angle side is a theorem. Angle-angle side congruence is a theorem. Okay? So, pag postulate, di natin siya kailangang i-prove. But, for theorems, kailangan natin ng proof. Now, let's go to example number 1, developing proof. So, is it possible to prove that the triangles are congruent? If so, state the postulate or theorem you would use. So, explain your reasoning. So, syempre, ang topic natin ay ASA at saka AAS. So, disregard muna natin yung inaral natin before na SSS at saka SAS. Ito muna tayo mag-focus. Gumamit ba dito ng ano? Oh, hindi. Walang ginamit dito na SSS at SAS. So, let's decide. First, we have parang mas maganda na ano, lagay natin to sa viewboard. So, I can put markings since I am very confused with figures. I am easily confused with figures. And, kakalito. Okay. Analyze tayo. Number one. Ay. Okay. So, letter A. So, meron tayo ditong additional na part. Meron tayong dalawang markings. Isang angle. Angle E is congruent to angle J. So, isang angle siya. Tapos, angle G, maging specific tayo, EGF is congruent to angle HGJ. So, this is another angle. Paano yung naging congruent? So, these are vertical angles. Next, angle, wala na palang angle. Side na pala. Non-included side, we have EF is congruent to HJ. So, this is the non-included side. We can prove that the triangles are congruent through the AAS postulate. Ay, hindi ito postulate. AAS congruence theorem siya. Congruence theorem. Okay? So, let's check on the book if I made the right decision of using that. So, in addition to the angles and segments that are marked, so angle EGF and JGH by the vertical angles theorem, ayan, tama tayo, vertical angles. Two pairs of corresponding angles and one pair of corresponding sides are congruent. You can use the AAS congruence theorem to prove that EFG is congruent to JHG. Okay? Next, dito tayo sa B. Hindi ko na i-explain yung dalawa. So, in addition to the segments that are marked, two pairs of corresponding sides are congruent. This is not enough information to prove that the triangles are congruent. Ano pa yung isang congruent na, ano natin dito? Isang congruent na part. So, yung isang congruent na part natin ay NP. So, NP is congruent to NP. But we only have two sides. So, hindi siya enough. Hindi natin magagamit yung SSS, SAS, kasi wala namang angle na may mark. Hindi rin natin magagamit si AAS at saka si ASA. So, we cannot use any of the postulates and theorem that we discussed in proving that these two triangles are congruent. Now, let's go to C. Meron tayong parallel lines dito. So, cut by the transversal siya. We have 1 and 3 are congruent through alternate interior angles theorem. And 2 and 4 are also congruent through alternate congruent. Oo, alternate interior angles pa rin siya. So, 2 and 4 are also congruent using the alternate interior angles congruence. And aside from that, meron tayong included side, which is WZ. Using the reflexive property of congruence, we have WZ is equal to WZ. So, we can use the ASA congruence postulate. Okay? Okay. Yan, ito medyo exciting na to. I-ano na natin. Copy na natin siya at i-paste dito. Proving triangles are congruent. We have given AD is parallel to EC and BD is congruent to BC. Prove that ABD is congruent to EBC. So, plan for proof. Notice that angle ABD and angle EBC are congruent. Bigay natin yung reason sa two-column proof. So, lagay tayo ng statement dito and on the other side, we have the reasons. Statement number 1, given BD is congruent to BC. Given. And this is one side. Number 2, mamaya i-identify natin kung included siya or non-included. Dito muna tayo sa number 2. We have to state the reason on why ABD is congruent to EBC. So, ito at ito ay congruent through the vertical angles theorem. Now, parallel si AD at saka si CE. So, we can treat DC as a transversal passing through parallel lines AD and CE. Okay. So, from here, magkakaroon tayo ng mga angles. So, si CD ito, magkakaroon tayo ng angle na ito, which is congruent to this one. Why? Teka lang. Susulat ko muna. Angle D is congruent to angle C through the alternate interior angles theorem. Okay, so they are congruent kasi C, pag in-extend mo to, will be an interior angle. And pag in-extend mo to, another interior angle is D, and they are from the different sides of the transversal. Okay, so this is another angle. This is another angle. Ano si S? Included ba siya or non-included? So this is included. So this is an included angle. Therefore, we can conclude that ABD is congruent to triangle EBC using the angle, side angle, kalimutan ko yung salitang congruence. Congruence postulate. Ayan. Is there another way of solving this? Yes, there is. Paano? So, alternate proof natin, pwede rin naman kayong AS. Paano yon? Copy ko na lang din dito yung yung ginawa natin kanina. Kasi halos parehas lang naman sila. Or ano pala, i-ano ko na lang to, duplicate ko na lang. Wait lang ha. Okay. Burahin natin yung reason. Ay, teka. Hindi natin to papalitan, tong ABD. At saka, ito hindi rin to papalitan. Yan. Ito lang yung papalitan natin. Yung reasoning dito. Yan. At saka yung outline ng proof dito. So, instead of considering DC as a transversal, you can also consider segment AE as a transversal passing through parallel lines AD and CE. So, if you will consider AE as your transversal line, hindi na si D at si C ang magiging congruent. Ang magiging congruent na ay itong dalawa. Si A at si E. So, ang gagamitin na natin ay si angle A is congruent to angle E. Using alternate interior angles pa rin. But, we are going to make changes regarding our reason or our approach. Hindi na siya ASA. Kasi, magiging non-included side na si BD at si BC. So, dito, we are going to make use of AAS congruence theorem. Okay? Okay. So, here, the more appropriate reason will be AAS congruence theorem if you will consider AE as your transversal instead of DC. But both approaches will yield you the same conclusion. Okay? 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 Okay. So, let's move forward to... Ay, ang ginamit niya dito ASA. Pero, sabi ko nga, pwede rin ng AAS. Ito, naka-define sa kanya dito. Next, we have using congruence postulates and theorems. So, using properties of congruent triangles. Ang haba niya. Tinatamad ako Actually, hindi ako tinatamad pala. Pagod na ako. Yan. Pakibasa na lang, ha? Okay. Yan. Pakibasa yung dalawang natitira. And that will be the end of our discussion on AAS and ASA, congruence postulate, at yung isa ay congruence theorem. Thank you very much for listening. And on the next video, silipin na natin yung susunod nating topic. We will be discussing, I don't know if sa ganitong point nakikinig pa kayo sa akin, pero pwede na kayong umalis, pwede na kayong mag-leave ng YouTube. Ayan. So, 4.5 using congruent triangles. Ito na pala yung susunod nating topic. So, thank you for listening and see you next time. Bye!